don't need training, says Amorim. You guys might beg to differ. Either way, it was a promising performance. It's much needed momentum. It sounds like there's still some frustration, A, that they didn't get the win, B, that they hadn't performed this well in other matches. Where are you guys at with United and Amorim right now, Matthew?
Well, there's obviously a lot of things he can take out of that game. And I think the emotion of that match, it makes the players do certain things. And I think the team has been guilty in the first couple of months almost now of the new manager of thinking so much about this new system and how they're going to fit into it that they forgot to compete. And that's what he's saying there. I don't need to train the players, coach them to compete. He said that's what they did today. So that's the big takeaway for me, is that this league, you've got to be aggressive, you've got to compete, you've got to run hard, you've got to work hard. And to be fair, he said that from day one. Now, the other bits of it will happen, and we need it. You know, the control, I thought the football control was better early on. Then it got crazy in the second half, and it became a bit of a boxing match, really. But that's the main takeaway. More aggressive, compete, and there's still holes in the team and the squad in certain positions, but that was more like it.
Yeah, they responded well. Like, you think about Salah's penalty, United responded well. They were competitive throughout.
They did respond well, and I think when you look at it, their three best performances under Amorim: Manchester City, which they won. Arsenal, I thought was a good performance. Yes, they got beat 2-0. And you look at the Liverpool result. So when you're playing in a certain system, if you're not dominating the ball, it's easier to defend. So one of the things that stood out yesterday for me was how they moved up and down the pitch together. And it was a collective effort. The problem is going to be, and this, as bizarre as it sounds, Manchester United will find it more difficult when they're playing teams that don't want to dominate the ball, because it means that Manchester United have to be expansive. That's the next step, because yes, it's okay, you go to Liverpool, you get the draw, you're mainly defending, you're mainly holding your position. Manchester City, you win the game, you're playing on the counter-attack. Arsenal, they played well. It's when they get stretched. That and from Amorim's side of things, when they get stretched as a team, that's where the fitness levels comes in. Because let's not forget, Amorim will demand really high fitness, because that's what his style demands. So for me, it's getting the consistency, not necessarily when you're playing the top 3-4 teams, but when you're playing teams that are further down the bottom. They got beat by Wolves, they drew with Ipswich, they drew with Crystal Palace. Those for me are some of the bigger games that you're going to look at.
Just quickly before we move on to Liverpool then, in terms of building off this unquestionable momentum that they gained from yesterday, do you expect to see United buying players in this current transfer window?
I'd love to see him buy a wing-back or two, because that's two major positions where that would change a lot. Now, of course, finding really good players in January is difficult, but that's where, for me, the first port of call is, because there's no real natural wing-backs in that team. That's what they need. OK, so while United will take some positives from that game, was it a disappointing performance and result for Liverpool? I thought they were a little complacent, to be honest with you. I think they thought it was going to be easier than what it was. They should know better against Manchester United. It's a massive, massive game. I've got to say, Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't have a good game, and he was at fault for the first goal. But the amount of hammering that he's had in the media and through newspapers and in the UK, because his contract's coming to an end, I think it's pretty poor to witness and to see it. You know, he's part of a back four that's almost the best in the league, maybe one off the best defensive record. They're 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. He's had good games. He helped create the goal with the handball with De Ligt. So, I just feel for him a little bit, because he's been good this season, been better. Got hammered yesterday.
And I think one of the things, just carrying on from what Robbie said there about Trent Alexander-Arnold, people will talk about his defensive frailties and, you know, that's not necessarily the best side of his game. People also forget that you have got, yes, one of the greatest players in the world at the moment in front of him, Mo Salah. Mo Salah's never going to defend. And I think Slot said it really well. He came out and said, yeah, well, he had to deal with Bruno Fernandes. He had to deal with Dalot. And that, for me, was a huge thing. I think Liverpool's biggest surprise yesterday was how physical Manchester United were. Manchester United won so many of the second balls, they didn't allow Liverpool to get into their stride.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.